Adventures in Imperfect Living.
Hey, greetings, folks. Welcome to the first episode of Adventures in Imperfect Living for the year 2024. My name is Greg Willits from RosaryArmy.com.
And I'm Jennifer Willits, his wife.
Very glad to have you with us. Happy New Year. Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year, babe.
Boy, I tell you what, I had a meeting this morning with Fiveable, the folks who have been helping us with School of Mary. And they all took off last week.
Good. Well-deserved break.
We're recording this right now on January 2nd, so we didn't do a show for January 1st just because I don't think anyone would be listening, and people had catch up, and they were going back and listening to the show that we did with Moose, hopefully. Did you listen to the show with Moose yet?
No, because I've been busy doing accounting tasks for Rosary Army, so I haven't had time to listen to any podcasts for anybody.
The Fiveable guys, they were like, so you took some time off, right? And I went, I was not going to be taking time off. I said, well, okay. If I told them I couldn't completely say I took no time off. I did spend a good amount of time sitting on the couch eating cookies. That happened. But it was constantly in thought, and it was constantly, going on. I normally had my computer, my laptop, and my iPad and my phone constantly near me. Pretty much all of the Christmas, beginning of the Christmas season and the end of Advent, because I was checking all the giving campaign stuff.
I think the Barons had a conversation amongst themselves that said, let's just stay away from Greg Willits for the month of December.
Did they say anything with that?
No, but I think they did, because I think they're like, I'm afraid of Greg Willits.
Well,
in giving campaign mode. He's not a very happy man during
It's not that I'm not a happy man. I'm a very concerned man. That's all it is. It's like,
super stressed.
We are stewards of this apostolate that, belongs to Jesus and Mary, but it's, I feel a great amount of responsibility in taking care of it. On New Year's, so we did get together with the Barons on New Year's. And
not just the Barons.
No, well, hold on. We got together we were invited over to our friends Danny and Amy and Mac and Catherine, and some of their kids were there, or one of their kids. Their kids abandoned. Anyway, see, you threw me off. Stay the target. I was having a conversation with Mac on New Year's Eve, and he was like, "So how's it going?" And I went, "Well, He said, "No." He said, "What have you been doing this weekend?" That's what he said. "What have you been doing this weekend?" I'm like, "Well, you know what I've been doing this weekend? I've just been writing thank you notes to the people who have donated, and I've been updating our tally and trying to send out newsletters, keeping people interested and updated on what's going on, without being a pest to the people who are so graciously subscribed to our newsletter. By the way, subscribe to the Rosary Army newsletter. It's a lot of great stuff. People have really been saying some nice things about it. I need to make that easier. I need to add that. I'm going to add that to my notes as well. I need to make it the newsletter quick sign up or something like that.
And I would like to add that your newsletters they're different. They're not normal, what I would consider a normal run-of-the-mill newsletter from an organization. This one is personal, with personal stories that you lovingly craft and pour your heart into.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes they're just to the point, but sometimes you find these little anecdotes that draw from a real life experience, and you include them in such a beautiful way that they're really a pleasure to read. And I'll admit I haven't read every single one that you've ever written, but maybe the last 5 or so that have come out as a part of the giving campaign, but also to give something to the reader, whether it be food for thought or a new point of view or perspective or something to be grateful for that you hadn't thought about. I just love reading them because they challenge me and they make me excited to want to stay in the Rosary Army community. And I've been in it since its inception.
Well,
so thank you for what you've written. And honestly, if you've never signed up for the newsletter, I highly encourage you to do that.
Well, that's the thing. I need to make it a little bit easier because on the website, if you sign up to get a free rosary, or if you sign up to download one of the PDFs or something like that, then that's how you get on to the newsletter by default. But I don't have a just, get more information from Rosary Army. And there's a zillion things that we want to do. And I'm trying to, this year, this is the year of outsourcing even more. I'm actually supposed to have a conversation today with a virtual assistant. And again, I had the conversation with the Fiveable guys. And they said, so it's virtual? So it's like AI? I went, no, it's a real person. So why is it virtual? Because she's 10 years ago, that's what they call it. The virtual assistant was the name before all the
That's
AI.
a good point. It's just
And
a
so-
remote employee.
Yeah, and then that's what he said. Why don't you call it a remote assistant? I was like, well, I don't know.
That's really what it is.
So,
yeah.
so I'm looking to hire, not even hire. I'm looking to contract with someone on a temporary basis for X amount of hours a week, versus bringing on an employee, which we can't afford that. But I can afford to outsource a certain amount of hours a week. And so these virtual assistants, I've known about them for 10, 15 years. I remember Cliff Ravenscraft talking about them years ago. But he hired someone to help upload his shows and post them onto wherever. And that's one thing that I would want someone to help me with. But you can hire someone, a virtual assistant, to help you with like social media stuff, which I don't like to do. I'm not very good at it, but I think that's beneficial. I like the idea of having things that go live, that are meaningful around Marian feast days and those kinds of things, and just keeping people, reminding people to pray the rosary every day. So all those things. So anyway, you're leading me down the primrose
So
path.
go back to Mac Barron saying, "What have you been doing?"
What have you
That's
been
where
doing?
it all started.
And I just said, has there ever been a new year where I wasn't working on a giving campaign or launching a new website or doing something? We get together with them for New Year's, and we realized that we've been getting together with them for New Year's, I think, for 16 or 17 years now. 2006 was the first year, so whatever. I can't do that level of math anymore. So what is that? Yeah, it's like 17 years that we've been getting together with them. Not every New Year's, but just about every New Year's. And I said, I feel bad because we get together and my mind is always somewhere else, but I can't help it. This is the time of the year where we focus on, trying to raise the money. So here's the great news. So we raised more than 75% of our goal. We were trying to raise $200,000. We raised $100 as of the recording of this, and I haven't checked the last minute. I haven't gotten the mail yet for the new year. I haven't gone to the post office and gotten it. There could be some checks there. I haven't looked into that, but we still had additional donations showing up even this morning, because some people don't care about the tax deduction. So they're like, yeah, I'm going to wait until after the first of the year and I'll donate then, which is fantastic. We'll take whatever help we can get. But as of now, and I have too many windows open, I don't even know what I'm looking for here. As of this morning, and as of this moment, I'm pulling up my database for keeping track of all this. $158,723 was pledged or given already. When I say pledged, a lot of people sign up as monthly donors. Some people pledged to give, like our monthly or our matching donors. They're going to be sending in the checks in the next couple months, so we don't have that on hand yet. But pledged or given $158,723, the most amount that we've ever raised in a year for Rosary Army.
It's incredible.
We raised that.
Man.
We started November 27th. So in just a month plus a few days, we're able to raise that. That's enough that we're not doing another giving campaign until Advent. I want to throw out a caveat and say, barring like some enormous opportunity that comes up that requires us to have some extra funds on hand, but I don't know what that would be. Right. The Pope, dies and suddenly, the Vatican called and asked us to be a part of the conclave. I need some extra money to get to the Vatican.
Oh, well.
I don't know.
Wow.
Right?
What a bizarre, random set of circumstances.
I feel like that's more likely than the Pope calling me. So I was trying to. Anyway, my point is I can't imagine a circumstance where we need to ask for additional funds. So, barring some thing like that, that won't happen. We have what we need to continue going. We didn't raise all that we need to. We could do even more if we had more funds, and that's kind of why we had the 200,000 goal, so that we had a little bit of buffer, so that we don't run into what we did this past year, which is literally we hit the beginning of December, and we weren't sure if a month later Rosary Army would still exist, and we don't want to do that again. That was a precarious place that we were in. But to be able to plan and execute on a lot more things, to be able to have the help. So, for example, on Thursday of this week, you may remember Deacon Matthew Newsom, who was on the program last year. He wrote a book called about the Introduction to the Devout Life, and he has several talks that he's given about that content. So he's actually going to come here to Atlanta on later this week. We're going to be here in the studio. I have a plan for kind of rearranging some of these things here. And we're going to be filming a brand new course for you, free. That will be available over at School of Mary, free. So doing that, we're going to be putting him up in a hotel and paying for his travel to get here, going to be giving him the opportunity to film that, but then I have to get it edited. Either I have to edit it or I need to hire someone to edit it. We need to get it posted, all the supplemental materials that we'd like to create to make that available for free. So it's we're creating a course, and every time we do this, that comes with a cost associated with it. A lot of production costs that go into it. And then in March, we're going to be filming 2 more courses, one with Shane Kapler, and I just heard from Emily Jaminet this morning. We're going to be doing something on the Sacred Heart and teaming up with her apostolate. So, we're developing these things. Now that we have School of Mary there, we're going to be actually building these things out, plus all the other things that we hope to do. And all these things cost money. And I would like to outsource some of these things so that I'm able to focus my mental energies on the creation of the content and not necessarily on all the administrative sides of things that go into it. So I feel like experimenting with a virtual assistant is going to be a good route to go down.
I think you've been wanting to do that for a long time.
I tried a couple experiments last year, and it was interesting. I hired someone on Fiverr to do an animation. So on School of Mary, if you see like the little animated logo pop up in the corner, that I paid someone to do that, remotely, and I was like, I just need to be doing this more often. And so the downside of a remote assistant is that typically the way that they work is they want you to pay, it's sort of like a stipend, right? You're paying them X amount of dollars up front, and if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Yeah.
And so I need to make sure that I actually, use the time that I'm going to purchase.
That you're buying, yeah.
But the good side of it is that even though there's an expense that's associated with that, it's a significant expense. If I can free up this much time, then I can focus that on writing and creating new content. Which is like last year, the fact that I didn't make hardly any of the progress I wanted to make on the Love of Eternal Wisdom project that has just been brewing now for over a year.
And before that, the other thing brewing was the 15 promises.
Oh, but that's a book. But both those are books,
project, right?
But the Eternal Wisdom, I feel like that's a course, that's a book, that's multiple things need to go into that. I feel like it's one of the most important things we could be doing right now. So anyway, we
got a lot of plans for 2024. Production plans,
a lot of plans, a lot of things going on with it, and so the fact that even like today as we're recording, we have a lot of ideas of things that we want to talk about, and obviously we just went into 1,000 different directions. And thank you for pulling me back to the conversation with Mac, which is, what'd you do this weekend? It's like, well, I just stressed over things, but it got to a point.
Well, how well did you rest? Because this is also a time of low production because you're doing something else. Your brain is sort of somewhere else.
I would say I didn't rest very well. I'm kind of looking at maybe in February resting.
Okay. But that's...
I think what?
Well, it's just resting is hard
Yeah.
for you because we're getting older. So our energy is at a particular place. And so we tend to react based on how we feel to determine what are we going to do for recreation. And if we're not well or we're tired, well, then we're not really going to recreate very well,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, at least that's kind of partially true for me. And I know I get knocked off my game by illness or injury, and then any gains I've made in my own physical health, that affects my ability to recreate. So I've got to get control of that again this year.
Well,
hands down.
I found with me, I get knocked down, but then I get back up again.
Oh,
and ain't nothing ever going to keep me down.
Okay.
And then I get knocked down, I get back up again, and nothing's going to keep me down.
Well, that's the Christian walk.
And then I take a whiskey drink, I take a vodka drink, I take a whiskey drink. If you're of our age, you got that reference. So what I would love to, I haven't gone on a retreat in a few years.
I thought about that. You need to go away.
Yeah.
I went way more recently than you, and it was amazing. It was so beneficial to me to go on that silent retreat. So do you think you want to do a silent retreat?
Oh, I don't know of any other kind that I could go on, quite honestly.
There could be no words.
We do have a few things coming up. So we're going to be going. We were invited to go to Ohio. We were invited to Ohio 4 years ago, and then COVID hit. I don't think we talked about this on the show. We're going to be on Journey Home on EWTN. Matt Swaim.
It's been a long time
who we've
coming.
known for a long time. Yeah, Matt contacted us in early 2020 and asked us if we would fly up to Ohio. That's where they filmed the Journey Home. So we fly into Columbus and then drive up. There's some secret location somewhere in northern Ohio.
They're not going to put bags over our head, are they?
Yeah, I mean,
and then drive us secretly.
Potato sacks, throw us in a van without windows, and dump us out. And what's cool is, so the Journey Home on EWTN, which is on Monday nights at 8 Eastern, used to be hosted by John Mark Grody. Not John Mark Grody, Marcus Grody. Marcus, we had on our program, our radio program a few times. And then in 2015, at the very last Catholic New Media celebration that SQPN does, I was asked to give the keynote at that event. And we met John Mark Grody, Marcus's son, and had no idea that a few years later, John Mark would take over as the host of Journey Home. So when we go to Ohio and we're on the Journey Home, John Mark is going to be the one who's going to be interviewing us. We went to karaoke with John Mark. I don't know how many Journey Home guests can say, we were at karaoke with you, my friend.
Lord.
We
That was
have
a long time ago.
We have photographic evidence of actually, if I can remember, Ben Barron, you could put up the photographic evidence of when I took the picture. You're in the picture. I'm not in it because I was behind the camera. Of John Mark Grody and Seth, who now works for Journey Home.
Yeah.
Or the Coming Home Network. He was there, and the Barons were there, and then our friend Billy Newton were all there in that picture. And we were at some karaoke dive bar down by the Atlanta airport. I'm not even sure how that all came about. I don't think I sang that night. I remember
It's because we wanted to do something. We were all together. We sensed this is a rare gathering of these particular personalities. We need to keep the party going.
It was a rare
But we're in
gathering.
a bad part of town. So what are our options? And so we just found a karaoke bar, and it worked. It did what it needed to do.
And then at some point, I saw it on the calendar, but I can't remember if this was a done deal. We're actually going to go over and spend some time with Dan Burke.
Finally.
And Dan's been on the
Oh, my
program, and he
goodness.
invited us over to Avila Institute, to their facility
He's
over in
got
Alabama.
this little house.
Yeah.
It's so small and
So we're going to be going over and spending some time with him, and I'm not quite sure what to expect from that. I feel like is that a retreat or is that meetings? And he said we'll be on his show as well. We'll see if that actually happens or if we just spend a lot of time talking.
I think it'll be
with him and Stephanie. And
it's a much needed time for us to step away from our home office because we live and work in this one place, and we need to break away to kind of gain new perspective, talk to other personalities, and kind of see like how he's doing things with his work in ministry. And also we can promote Rosary Army on his show, like you said. I've never really had a conversation with his wife, Stephanie, before.
I never have
only
either.
ever seen her briefly online with the work when she's broadcasted with him. But he is such man, I've really just grown to really appreciate him over the last probably 8 years or so. And I'm so impressed by his story, and I find him to be such an encouraging man, and he just fills me with a lot of hope. And I suspect that I'll have a lot of common, conversation topics with his wife.
I was about to say with Dan.
With Stephanie in particular.
I feel like Dan and I might just go in a room and sit for a while,
right.
not talk.
And then
sit.
Stephanie and I will go like, so how do you do it? How have you made it? What keeps you going? All that kind of stuff. We can encourage each other.
So
It'd be great.
I'm looking forward to that, but I'm also looking at so January is all, I tried to do a lot of this last month as well, of doing the organizational planning for this year and actually getting things down on paper of when we're going to be doing different projects and how to launch it. One of the things that I am progressively frustrated with is when I tried and when I have in the past wanted to plan things more methodically, I don't always get to actually implement the plans that I want. And part of it is because of a lack of adequate planning. And so what I mean by that is we know every year there's May and October. And those are two big Mary and Rosary months. And every year my desire is for us to be able to do some level of extra stuff during that time. And we try to do some, but a lot of it, because it doesn't get committed down to a calendar and planned, doesn't happen. And so I've actually started working out an entire year calendar where I'm, from a production perspective, from a marketing perspective, and marketing is just the newsletters and emails and that kind of thing, right? Of when am I actually going to be working on the things well in advance of actual times when they're going to be released. And that's been my desire. We've been working from a I mean, even today, we're recording this today in particular because we're out of time and we need to get it to our editor, Ben Barron, so that he has time to edit it before we can release this to you on Monday. And so that's kind of new, right? For years, we would record the show and release the show within, the same 2 hours. And we're just trying to be more methodical about getting this content so it's more meaningful to you. But that also requires us planning things in advance of how we're going to do these things. So I'm even developing a thematic calendar for the entire year because I want to be able to, when a month comes about, if we find ourselves in a situation of like, hey, we need to record a show for Monday, what do we talk about? It's like, well, what's the theme for the month? And we just keep diving into these topics on a deeper level. So really trying to be more strategic in that level of planning, of writing it out. One of the things you and I were having a conversation about this morning, we've been talking for the longest time, how do we get back to doing the live rosaries on a regular basis? But I want them not to just be things that are streamed online on YouTube. How do we make that be a part of School of Mary? How do we build School of Mary's community more? One of the things that I personally struggle with our current community as it is it's been requiring me to go in and leave comments and try to keep the conversation going, which is just not my strong suit, right?
Right.
And so I really have depended upon other Rosary Army prayer warriors to help me with that. And it fluctuates, depending on what's going on. And I'm constantly trying to figure out how do we improve that level of community. And I think one of the things I'm kind of mulling on today is the idea of going ahead and committing to a weekly live meeting that would be we could gather weekly, at least once a week, and pray the rosary together, and then have 15, 20 minutes of conversation, Q&A, whatever, and make that be a School of Mary offering on a weekly basis, but committing to that and putting it down. And that's hard for me to commit to that, right? It's scary, honestly, the idea of committing every Monday, for example, at 8:00. Mm-hmm. It's intimidating to me. But the way I'm looking at it, and this has kind of been a very long gestating dream of mine, and I think we finally, through our School of Mary platform as it is right now, I think we're very close to where it doesn't have to fall on my shoulders squarely every Monday. I think I do have it nearly set up where I could start saying, hey, I'm not available on this Monday. Mac and Catherine, can you lead the rosary? Here's the login. You guys do it, or just and talk. I've talked to enough of our Rosary Army soldiers. I think that I can, a certain level of trust. And part of the last month I talked about the Zoom conversations I was having. I'm trying really hard to actually spend time with people, even if it's virtually over Zoom, so that we can have a better sense of who might want to have a bigger role of this and how do we make that happen. So it's tough. It's a lot of juggling going on, but if anything, going back to the giving campaign again, I mean, I feel very confident that we have been given our marching orders, and in October, and I'll be honest, I mean, I can kind of throw this out there. It wasn't a firm job offer, but I mean, someone floated out the idea of me going to work for them and said, "Are you looking for work?" And I said, "Not really. I don't." But I said, "Talk to me in January because I just don't know. I don't know if we'd be able to continue doing the work that we're doing." And we just kept trusting Mary, and that was one of the newsletter. Did you read that one? Yeah, about the Trust Mary, the bird by bird one. I think.
Oh
you did.
yeah.
And,
Of course.
Just the more we trust her, the more faithful she is in bringing us to Jesus, and the more faithful Mary is in providing for us what we need to continue doing this work. And trying to daily consecrate myself, trying to continually encourage people in consecration, to continually pray the rosary every day and do whatever it takes to be holy, which I should have said one of my predictions when we were talking about New Year's predictions the other day. One of my predictions is that by the end of this year, pray your rosary every day and do whatever it takes to be holy will be both a T-shirt and a coffee mug by the end of the year.
Oh no!
I mean, because I mean that is probably the greatest sign off that we've come up with. I like you are awesome and you're not alone.
Right.
That was fine, but truly that clarion call has helped me in so many other ways. Of like, we Rosary Army is about helping you pray your rosary every day and doing whatever it takes to be holy. And that's what we're trying to do. We're going to create resources to help you do that.
Now, have you told them about the magnet that you designed?
Told who?
Our audience.
No, because that was That was a surprise. That was not something that.
Okay, well,
I mean,
never mind.
Well, you brought it up. I mean, so for those of you watching, this one's been chewed on by a certain cat, but this is not a magnet. But it's like I made a little prayer book, pamphlet, I should say, a pamphlet it's prayers for daily consecration, and I didn't tell anyone I was doing that. And I also made up a new magnet. We did a magnet last year that had Marian feast days on it, but I made up a new magnet that had a daily short form consecration prayer. It had an image of St. Louis Marie de Montfort, and it basically just had the prayer, "I am all thine, and all that I have belongs to thee, O my sweet Jesus, through Mary, thy holy mother." And it's a magnet, stick on your fridge, and
I love magnets.
And so
I love fridge magnets.
So I was putting both that little prayer booklet and a magnet and a thank you card, and tried to send a thank you to everyone who's donated. I was all caught up on December 30th. I had written and sent out over 200 thank you cards. So
handwritten,
and
that's amazing.
But then
you were so diligent.
Over the next 2 days, we got about 50 new donations, and so I'm still working on that batch. So if you gave after December 30th, you probably haven't gotten your thank you card yet. But I'm working on it.
What do you do for the people who like donated once?
Yeah,
and then like 10 days later they did it again. I think like the one thank you card with the enclosures as a gift.
I thought about
suffices.
that. I thought about that, and I'm like, so
they've been thanked.
Well, see, I also made up a new greeting card that I'm sending out as well.
These are really pretty.
So the greeting card is based off of a painting that I did, which is based off of another image. And so if you got one of the greeting cards, the picture on the front of the greeting card, I actually painted that. And if you look at it really closely, if you look at it's a picture of Mary. If you look at her hands, it's not.
Don't look at her hands.
It's not. It's actually the painting isn't finished yet, but it was like it's good enough, and no one's going to notice this small. But if you look at it close up, Jennifer isn't happy with the hands yet, so I still have to fix the hands. And I just haven't. I haven't painted. I haven't painted in months.
How did he do?
but going back to your. Well, no one knows who did that.
Oh.
The original image is based off of an image that was uncovered by a nun who found an image that was a pornographic image that was pasted over on a frame picture. And it was in 1918. And this nun went to scrape off this pornographic image. She's like, didn't want any sign of this image on this picture. And she was going to destroy. So she's scraping off. She could tell it was like taped on or pasted on top. She scraped it off, and underneath it was this beautiful image of the Immaculate Heart of Mary.
Wow. So how diabolical.
Yeah. Back in 1918, no less.
Wow.
So
I mean, think about what happened the year before, 1917. And like
right.
Marian apparitions, wars.
Yeah, Fatima.
You know?
Yeah. So going back to your question of what do I do for people who like gave a second time?
Yeah.
Well, I already sent them that card with the pamphlet with the magnet. I'm like, I don't really have any. I have
nothing left.
I could send the card. I still have some cards left from the one that I designed from last year as a thank you card, but a lot of the people would have already gotten one of those last year. So I don't know. I don't have a backup of my backup card. So thank you. I'm trying my best to thank everyone for every donation, but I think
everybody knows that you feel this way, and I feel this way.
I'm so grateful. I mean,
we are. Let me tell you. I mean, it just.
I was very sleepless the last week. My sleep was pretty terrible. I was tired. I mean, it's like and one of the things I took up in prayer a lot. I was just like it's like I surrender, and then 30 seconds later, I have to surrender again. I surrender, and I go, yes, whew, okay, I feel good. I've turned it over. Except for when's another, and I immediately go right back to it. I was like, and so that's part of what was so exhausting about December was this constant surrender. Will we have what we need to continue doing this work? And yeah, it's pretty amazing. But it's also what's great about the stress of the giving campaign is the reminder when January rolls around, you are the servant who has been given X amount of talents. What are you going to do to invest those talents? And I feel that strongly. And so immediately I want to get to work. I want to start, being useful and that kind of thing. So,
yeah. And so this year I'm hoping to, I've actually allowed myself to have an office for the first time in years. And
because the kid moved out.
because one of our boys moved out. So that finally freed up a room that I can really try to thoughtfully design a very efficient rosary production space for the tasks that I typically perform for Rosary Army, which is a lot of the processing of incoming rosaries still that come in, thankfully, by wonderful rosary makers throughout the world. And then just getting them out the door in a timely manner. And when you're dealing with distribution, those are very specific tasks that require very specific spaces and tabletops and sizes. And there's not a one size fits all for distribution type work. So I'm really just paying attention to how I work and what I do so that I can sort of design a very efficient space that will allow me to do this, with greater ease and to free up my time so I'm more available for the content creation, which I know we've got a year of planning for that. So I'm excited that I get to kind of have a room with a door. So it's a big deal for me to have a room with a door.
Even though you don't shut it
I
very often.
typically don't shut it because I like to be super available to our daughter, who's going to be 15 soon. She has been reminding us.
This month.
Regularly.
So,
So-
I want to make fun of your office a little bit because so Tommy, our 19-year-old moved out last April, and we've shared this, and then like a couple months later, Walter moved back in right before he got married, and then he moved out, or so he was in Tommy's room, and then so now we had this big empty room, and then we made the decision that Ben's room, which was downstairs, and Ben's at college. We would move all of Ben's stuff upstairs to Tommy's old room, which was Ben's room when we first moved into the house.
Good job if you're keeping up with
Ben
us.
has literally he has now spent time in every one of our bedrooms except ours. and that's not going to happen. He's not going to have any time in the master
He's
bedroom.
never moving into ours.
So Ben's back in his original room from when we moved into this house almost 5 years ago. And so he's up there, which emptied out his room downstairs. And when we finally decided to build out this studio space and we had walls constructed that weren't here before and we made the commitment that we were going to do this, I could not get it designed fast enough. It drove me nuts how long it took. It took months before I started getting pictures hung up on the wall. It just drove me nuts. I see your office, quote unquote, downstairs, which is now comprised of a card table that for years was just leaned up against the garbage can out in the garage.
Yes.
And we would bring out that card table on occasion and clean it up and use it for doing a puzzle or something. So your desk right now is a foldable card table, and
I'm aware.
I walk into your quote unquote office, and you always have the overhead light on, which I hate overhead lights.
It's a terrible light color.
I do not like
terrible.
overhead lights. I like having ambient light that comes from other areas. It's just it's more controllable. Anyway. So I walk into your office and it lets off this weird glow, an unnatural glow. When you have this card table right in the middle, and then now you've like ushered in this old IKEA thing that we've had for eons. I don't even know where it was. I think it was in Ben's closet.
It was.
And now you've brought this. I mean, this is an IKEA cabinet thing that we had in our studio when we were doing the show for Sirius XM. So we bought that thing like 15 years ago. We've been hauling that around the country. So now you have not just one, not two, but 4 different types of printer on that thing. You have one printer for printing labels, one printer that's a printer scanner, one printer that's used for printing off
labels.
Yeah, colored labels, and then there's a 4th printer of some sort just for random things.
Oh, it's a docu-scanner.
A docu-scanner, okay.
Yeah, which I need.
So you have this station, and I walk in, and man, I mean, it's all. I think we're going to install like one of those overhead fluorescent lights.
That's
in
all
there.
that's missing.
It's all that's missing. The
Oh,
kind
and
with
some of the acoustic ceilings, I can throw pencils up there.
Yeah, I think that's it because that right
and it
now
needs to start flickering and makes you feel like you're going to go crazy.
there
It's
is
awful.
nothing warm about that room that you're in right now, and I don't. But I also know you because I'm like trying to talk to you about your desk. What are you going to do about a desk? Do you want this current desk? Because I could probably get a different desk for the studio if you wanted my standing desk. And you're like, no, I'm just going to hold on to this. And I just keep thinking about like our ongoing Post-it note conversation. You put up a Post-it note and then it just is there forever. I'm really worried that you're going to be at this folding card table for like ever.
It's going to be with me longer than I want.
It's going to be.
I get this, but
because you also have a terrible time making a decision about furniture.
but I am making some headway with thoughts.
Well, as long as thoughts are being
Thoughts
made.
are happening in my brain. But, that's part of like in our marriage, we are very different personalities. We have different energies. We process things differently. What bothers him doesn't necessarily bother me and vice versa. I really want to do it right. And you're right. I do have that, what you called it, something paralysis, analysis paralysis.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, can we just make a decision? It's like,
No,
what do you
the
want?
stakes are too high.
The other night we went out. You and I had the opportunity to go out and get something to eat together. Okay, what do you want to eat? Right? What do you want to eat? It's like, well, we could go here, or we could just go to here. Or we could do Mexican. It's like, okay, pick one. Just pick one, because dinner is now. So pick one. Mexican. Okay.
Well, you give me 3 locations of Mexican restaurants.
Which Mexican restaurant do you want to go to? Oh. We went to one Mexican restaurant, and there was a wait, but then it was like, let's leave. Let's go to the other one. It's like, we can't even decide. We can't even decide on a Mexican restaurant sometimes.
No.
So.
You know what? But the question that stumps me is, what do you want?
Yeah, right?
That's the daunting question. It's
Should
like,
I say, what do you need?
what
Mexican restaurant do you need?
Because I feel like it's not exactly, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this, and you're probably going to jump on me for this, but I feel like it's not a very holy Marian thing to
What do you
ask.
want?
Like Mary would, if Mary's like, it's just what I do. I want the will of God. That's all I want, the will of God. She perfectly lives the will of God, okay, and everything. And so when I flip that question on myself, what do I want? I feel like it's too self-serving. I'm just looking at what pleases me, or and then that's where I get stuck right there, and it starts to just break down. And then I don't answer it. I just run away from it, and then nothing gets done.
Is that really the problem?
I think that is actually in there. It's part of what seeps into my mind.
Is my missile over there?
It is.
Grab my missile.
Oh man, I gotta get off this chair.
I'm going to bring up and this is one of the things I shared in the newsletter the other day. So a couple of things. And
is it going to answer my question, or did I just lead you to a new thought?
No, it's all part of it. So this was a part of the this was the collect. Is that it right there? Yeah, this was the collect from the Sunday within the octave of the Nativity of our Lord. So it was basically the Sunday before, it was Christmas Eve. Just go. All right.
There you go. That's easy.
So the collect, and this is in the traditional Latin Mass. O Almighty and everlasting God, direct our actions according to thy good pleasure, that in the name of thy beloved Son we may deserve to abound in good works, who with thee liveth and reigneth. So this we are called. Hold on, no. But we may deserve to abound in good works. We are called to do good works, and if we don't do the work of making decisions, right, of making a choice, then we are forfeiting what God is expecting of us, and we are being like the servant that was too fearful and took his talent and went and buried it in the sand and had nothing to show for it other than the original thing. So I believe God is calling us to do this work. And then furthermore, one of the other things I shared, excuse me, was a prayer that I'd never even noticed before. It was Thanksgiving of the Eucharistic Crusader. So if you got the newsletter, I already wrote about this. But one of the parts of the Thanksgiving of the Eucharistic Crusader prayer, which is one of the Thanksgiving after Mass prayers, was, I wish now, therefore, to reconsecrate myself entirely to thy heart forever, and I ask of thee thy grace and blessing in order to deliver my soul from sin and to preserve it in the future. I thank thee for accepting me in thy army as a Crusader knight handmaid. I promise to obey the...
Crusader...
Right.
Or
knight or handmaid.
Depending on who you are when you read this. That's how you're supposed to read that.
I promise to obey the rule of thy army and to be faithful to my commitments. So making decisions is being faithful to your commitments as well. Mm-hmm. We're not called to just sit around and just wait for marching orders to come in and then go march and then come back and sit down again and wait for marching order
I
again.
know. I need to design my workspace. I know it.
Well, it's
But I just got it. I feel like I just got it.
so there's that.
I'm going to do it.
Okay, but that goes back.
I do need help with design.
I'm trying to make the point of the analysis paralysis. Don't give in to analysis paralysis. Sometimes we have to make a choice, and you're right to say what is it that you want may not be what. Maybe the question needs to be what do you think is the best choice?
That I can answer. What is the best
what is going to be
item for my work
to the best of your ability at this particular moment with what you've been given at this minute, at this second? What might God maybe be bringing you to maybe make a decision about now?
Just don't ask me what's for dinner.
Right. What might be for dinner, according to the choice that you might need to be making right now, maybe based on what God might be asking you to do.
Based on what's in the pantry, what will be for dinner?
Cereal. No, we're out of cereal because we haven't gone to Costco in a while. All right.
Because we don't even eat normal cereal.
We don't even eat normal cereal. We got to go get stupid Costco keto cereal.
Okay, I digress. But if you could just have...
Do we digress? Us digressing?
If you could have any cereal...
Me?
Like, yes.
Without consequence?
Without consequence. Like, what would you just love a bowl of that was just like, oh, that's so good to eat?
If it didn't scrape up the top of the roof of my mouth and leave a weird film when I'm done eating it, I love being in the middle of a bowl of Captain Crunch.
I didn't think you were going to say that. I thought for sure.
If there were no consequences, but when I'm eating Captain Crunch, I'm just like,
it starts out bad.
Guilt.
Captain Crunch.
Yeah, because all the sugar.
But with the berries or just plain?
No.
Like the peanut butter
berries, those Crunch berries and Captain Crunch.
Okay,
I think that was the first sign of the apocalypse.
Okay. So what about grape nuts? I thought that was going to be...
Oh, I always like grape nuts. I don't feel as much guilt, but grape nuts has a boatload of carbohydrate in it. Yeah. I mean, it's like, don't look. Grape nuts is like, oh, you just think John Denver standing on a mountain. This is about as healthy as it could be. Okay. That's great. And then you flip it on the side and look at the carbs. And it's like 643 grams per spoonful.
There is no good nutritional label for cereal.
Anyway.
No,
I love granola. I love all that kind. But if you said no guilt, no consequence. I would totally go for something like
it would just kind of make you happy. Like you would feel
Crunch
an endorphin.
or Honeycomb or something like that. Those were always my two favorite ones as a kid.
Right.
If I could get my hands on Captain Crunch or Honeycomb, I was ripping that up.
I had high hopes for the Honeycomb. It did not. It you think it's going to be one way, and then it
soggy,
doesn't.
it
doesn't
but that's good.
Quite
I'm
fulfill.
all right.
But for me, I love Cinnamon Life cereal.
Yeah, that's so boring.
I love that.
I love you, but that's boring. Cinnamon Life.
Perfect for me. But then again, I love vanilla ice cream out of all the flavors.
Yeah, that's true.
It is vanilla. There is just no better canvas. It's like for the artist in you, I would think that you would be drawn to vanilla because like a blank canvas that you can just do things to it and make it beautiful and add things. And it's just so fun. See, you can't do that to chocolate.
You have no issue making choices with vanilla, but you can't make a choice for a chair.
If only. If only my office was as easy as that.
Just choose. So why don't you just paint the walls white? Get a. I guess the card table's already white. Just your whole office is a vanilla. That suddenly explains a lot.
Vanilla.
That's going to be Jennifer's,
wall color, vanilla.
You're going to be asked
little specks of black for the bean.
I predicted 2024 you're going to be asked by a Catholic publisher to write a book about, living the life of a Catholic wife and mother and all that kind of stuff, and it's just going to be called Vanilla. Just make everything plain, and then you can add stuff maybe at some point if you think about it. Well, when we've digressed to the conversation of cereal, I think we're done with the program.
We are. We're having fun now. We're
I think we're done. Thank you for being here with us as always. Go over and hopefully by the time you see this or listen to it, I will have created an easier way for you to sign up for the newsletter over at Rosary Army. We've been consolidating things over the past year. In case you didn't notice, everything's over at Rosary Army that you want to get. The podcasts, and hopefully, God willing, we'll have archives and stuff at some point soon. All that's still over at Greg and Jennifer, just because we like to confuse you a little bit. You can also join School of Mary, and you'll be ready to Check out the brand new program when it's available, the brand new course on devout life. But there's some orientation videos you can go through. You can start prepping for total consecration. There is a new consecration cycle that's going to begin in February that if you've never consecrated or if it's time for your renewal, I think it's February 12th is when it will start. So you can go ahead and sign up now at School of Mary.
Is that the one that leads to
The Annunciation.
Oh, yes.
So that's going to be
my favorite.
That's going to be a big one. I'm thinking around that time is when
Yeah.
we're going to try to start incorporating the live weekly rosaries and that kind of thing. And that's more of a community-based thing and not just so anyway,
Yeah.
got a lot of ideas. But go check out School of Mary. And, if you want to support Rosary Army, we'll always appreciate that help. rosaryarmy.com/donate. Thank you so much for being here. Pray your rosary every single day.
And do whatever it takes to be holy.
We'll talk to you again in a few days. Enjoy the beginning of this brand new year. Make some decisions. Vanilla.